Hey everybody, Vivian here with my first tutorial as an educator for Scraps of Darkness. So I'm so happy to be here and I hope you'll join me regularly. I should have at the very least, 2 video tutorials for you to watch per month. I'm sure there is a whole range of ability amongst all the subscribers in our Kit Club, and I've been really wowed by the stuff I've seen on our forums. So on occasion I'll do things a little bit more intricate, and probably more regularly I'll do things that are easy to incorporate into your crafting toolbox. As a lead-in, I'm just sharing with you some projects that I've made recently. This one is actually on the Sizzix blog today, and this is the same technique basically, but using some of the products in this month's December Scrap of Darkness kit. This is a detail of a full 12 by 12 layout that I did using the December color add-on for this month, which is really great. In just a second, I'm going to show you everything that comes in that add-on. Let me start with some mists. This is a rather new company that I'm really excited about. It's called Art Anthology, and they've got a whole range of mists and pastes and dimensional paints that they offer. I'm really excited that they're being offered with the kit, the December kit for Scraps of Darkness this month. This color is called Focus. And let me just show you quickly what that looks like. It's actually quite a sizable canister. You get a lot of ink in there. And let me show you how it sprays. Okay, if you get down close, okay, and then from really far away, okay, so from really far away it's the ink disperses quite nicely. It's a very fine mist. You do get this sort of circular shape. What I often do with basically all of my sprays, I don't think these are going to clog. What I do with all of my sprays is I transfer them to these Ranger mini misters, because the concentration and the way the mist disperse works really well for me when I use these. So I'll probably do that with these. This mist is you might not be able to see it from the video, but it's an unsaturated deep brown. I would call it like an espresso. Okay, and let me spritz some of the other mist that comes with it. This is another Art Anthology spray that's called Raider. Okay, and let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to do it really close up. Let me do it from far away. Okay, so from far away you get more of a dispersal of the ink. I'm not sure if you're going to be looking for that circular shape in your mist or not, but that's information for you. So this color is nearly black. I would say it's got a deep blue tint to it, and this is also quite unsaturated. So I would say it's black and indigo in tone. Alright, so let's go to some of these wonderful, exciting dimensional paints from Art Anthology that come with the kit as well. This is a gelate. I'm trying to think. I think I saw something on Facebook recently from Art Anthology saying that they were going to change the name of this dimensional gel paint because it's very similar to the Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft gelatos, which are very different. They're like crayons. So this is a beautiful blue color. I'm in love with it. And let me just show you how it, see how thick that is? Okay, and let me just get it out here. I cannot find my palette knife, so I'm just going to use a credit card. Actually, I really like using credit cards. This is an old insurance card. So let me just show you how that looks. See how thick that is? I don't want to waste it because I want to use it all up. But let me just show you. Okay, so that's going to hold up if you choose to create some dimension on your scrapbooking backgrounds. But that will keep its height if you want it to be thick. Okay, you can create some texture that way too. Okay, and let me show you the other color that comes with the color add-on this month. Just love these. This is a sorbet dimensional gel paint. And this is a really beautiful copper shade. And from just looking at it in the bottle, it seems to be a little bit thinner. So let me take that out for you and show you how that's going to look. Just a slight bit thinner, but still quite thick. I don't want to waste it. Okay, and let me show you. Okay. I absolutely adore these two colors together. They're very bohemian. Okay, and there's one last thing in the color add-on that I want to show you for this month. I label everything because I just have so much stuff in my stash, so you might see some stuff in there. But this is a mask from Prima. So you've got some variegated circle shapes, great for just general texture here and there. And then you've also got some gear shapes, some hexagon shapes. This is great for sort of steampunky types of projects. Okay, so I'm going to get right to a little tutorial for you guys. I think today we're going to do a real easy atmospheric background.
So first thing we're going to do is add some gesso to the 12 by 12 piece of white cardstock that I've got here. This cardstock, I can't remember exactly what brand it is, but it's got a little bit of texture to it. So it's going to change the way your media show up on your page. If you don't want any of those hash marks, then you'd want a really smooth cardstock. I'm just adding some South Shore Sand Mist from Lindy Stamp Gang. It's just a very light, neutral beige color. And I'm now, since that dried, I'm adding a blue concoction, a light blue concoction that's a mix of Tattered Angels and Smooch Spritz. Sometimes I just mix them together to create the shade that I want. And as you can see, because of the randomly gessoed areas, I've created a varied surface in terms of how well it absorbs the media. The areas that don't have any gesso absorb that media very well, whereas it sort of sits more on top if you have areas that are gessoed. And this is a little technique I learned from my watercolor. It's just blowing your paint around the page. And in doing that, you sort of create these really interesting sprays of paint, and in this case, mist. I'll have another tutorial about blowing paint in the future. I'm thinking I'll do it when we get an assortment of mists that are suited to the project that I have in mind. But so here you get some very subtle areas of interest on your background page. So you can see this is not a light misting type of technique. We are really laying on that mist heavily, and we're soaking our cardstock. So you want to make sure you have a really nice, thick piece of sturdy cardstock. I just wanted to show you some woodblock stamps that I have that I use quite a bit for my backgrounds. These are all Hampton Art, and I tend to prefer the woodblock stamps because they're just really easy to reach for. For this type of project, I don't have to reach for an acrylic block and adhere it to the acrylic block. For this project, I'm going to use that cube, and I'm going to use Color Box Mixed Media Inks in Honey. to add some natural, sort of vein-like textures to my project. I'm sort of trying to stay in line with my photograph. You'll see later it's a photograph of my mother's hands. She was here very recently. I was so excited to be able to have her visit me. And I introduced her to the world of papercraft and card making, and she just went nuts. If you visit me on my blog, that's contadinak.wordpress.com, and you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a few pictures of us having fun crafting and knitting together. But, these are her golden years, and it was a really interesting visit because she's had a very hard life, and she's worked very hard. She's lived through 2 wars, and her memory is starting to go. So that was an interesting change to notice. But I'm hoping she's around for a lot longer because there's a lot more excitement to come. Anyway, so I remember as a young girl, so here are those textures. I remember as a young girl always feeling her hands because they were hands that had already worked quite a bit. And they were wrinkled and the veins were popping out all over. And so now the way her hands look is even a more extreme version of the hands that I used to touch when I was a young girl. And I think actually in the end, usually my layouts are based on a photograph. Much of the textures and effects on this layout were based on sort of an extrapolation of what I think of when I think of her hands. So this is that beautiful blue gelate, and I'm sort of sloppily applying it through my Prima mask. And what I wanted to talk about with composition today is something that I actually employ a lot in my layouts. And you can use this for clean and simple designs, vintage designs, really any design. And I don't know if it's something you'd read about in a book. Maybe I read about it in a book somewhere. But just the idea of using the concept of concentrated to diffuse in your layouts, in your composition. I gravitate towards this concept quite a bit. And what I think of a lot as the most simple expression of concentrated to diffuse is the idea of a starburst. And I've been seeing that a lot in the more mainstream, happy, clean-cut layouts that I see a lot in the major galleries, where people use strips of paper to create those starbursts coming out from behind their major focal image, from their photograph. Here I'm doing it in a more organic fashion, a more loose interpretation of concentrated to diffuse. So I'd be really curious if you guys, in the layouts that you do in the coming weeks and months, are able to incorporate that idea, or if you already do, I'd love to see what you come up with compositionally. It always seems to work for me. I really like working that way. So I made a point to remember where I was going to place my my focal image and try to work those tight masked shapes towards the center and spray out with my with the rest of my design. Now, if you were to stop at this point, you would have, I think, a really great, subtle atmospheric background. I just wanted to share with you here another layout that I did. It's a 2-page layout using the same idea. Gessoing, light misting, and then some texture stamping around your page. I also used a mask on this one with a texture paste, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So I just wanted to share with you this layout because if you were to stop at this point, I think you could have a really great background, a really great, easy, custom background that matches your pattern papers or the tones in your photograph nicely. These days I've been working quite a bit with my hot glue gun to create organic vascular effects. I have another video that came out on my channel, Contadina K, on YouTube, that illustrates the same technique with hot glue, and that's immediately previous to this one. So if you want to browse around my YouTube channel, you can check that one out as well. So that's what I'm really into right now, and that's what I want to share with you. So I'm going to take it one step further. So I'm going to apply hot glue onto my layout, and I'm using the patterns that are already there as a starting point. And from there, I'm sort of allowing the hot glue to disperse into a more open network as I move towards the edges of my layout. And this is what I'm talking about when I say concentrated to diffuse. I'm start out rather tight, right around where my focal image is going to be, and then let that pattern of veins spread out as I move outward. So how do you manipulate the hot glue gun? I know usually when we use hot glue, we're doing our best to hide it. Here, my suggestion is that if you are interested in this technique, that you practice lifting the hot glue gun higher for a thinner stream, putting it down lower for a thicker stream, moving it fast for a thinner stream, moving it slow for a thicker stream. I think the important thing is variety. You don't want a uniform strip of hot glue. This effect, as you can see how it moves from a tight to loose composition towards the edges. This effect borders on the grotesque, but I have to tell you, I love it. And since this is Scraps of Darkness, I decided to share with you this thing that I'm really into right now. So we're going to use misting at this point again, along with misting of water. And I think, a lot of people are intimidated by misting. They're afraid their mist is not going to go onto their project the way they want it to, and then it'll be stuck there forever. Because we use such a heavy spraying of mist here, I'm not looking for a powdery type of spray, like little dots all over. I'm looking for a stream. And because I am going for that look, see how it's sort of collecting in all the nooks and crannies that I created with my hot glue? That's what I want. And I can also use water, spray water, to guide the mists where I want them to go, and also to dissolve them into a lighter tint. But I am getting my nozzle way up into my layout, like way up in there, so I can make sure it gets in all those nooks and crannies. Another key that I mentioned in my most immediately previous video is that the key to creating some of those luminous effects that you saw in some of the tags that I showed earlier is to do your best to work from light to dark. So I started with that light tan mist. I'm going now towards a little bit darker blue. And later in the tutorial, I'm going to do some blowing here too. Later in the tutorial, I'm going to go extra dark to get the really dark, sort of ominous shades from the spritzes that come in this month's add-on to do their magic. In order to get those colors to get into all the nooks and crannies, you're going to want to tilt your layout this way and that. It's not just a simple dripping all the way down your page. You're going to want to move it all around. And because this is a rather messy type of look, it's okay if drips go where you don't want them to. You can just wipe them off with a paper towel. And if you want those mists to stay where they are, just don't do any tilting at all. And I actually, with the Focus Art Anthology mist that you'll see later, I actually did that because I wanted it to sit and concentrate and pool in the tighter areas of my layout. So I'm going to start adding some of my Art Anthology mist in the color Focus. The blue mists haven't dried 100%, but I'm pretty cool with having those colors mix on the page. If you don't want that to happen, then you just want to make sure your first lighter application of color is completely dry before your second darker application of color. But given that this is, as you can see, a rather grungy project, I think that sort of natural mixing of colors works for this type of project. So I'd say don't be afraid of the darks. Just use them with the same design concept in mind of concentrated to diffuse, and you'll be okay. Plus, at this point, we're going to draw attention to the raised areas with some very juicy pigment inks from Colorbox. They're called Mixed Media Inks, INX. This is in the color Honey, and these are opaque. So if there end up being areas that are just too dark for you, you can just start tapping some of that pigment ink on top to lighten it up. But as you can see, now our really dark mists have pooled and dried in the appropriate areas. So when we add these lights to the raised areas, it's really going to make them pop, as you can see here. I used the honey color. I also, and I'm not going to show this on screen, I also used a pewter color of the same ink, and I also used a white color, which is called Jasmine. So they're really cool. I use them a lot. In just a second, I'm going to show you stills of the final project and some detail shots. I added some more embellishments, hand cut from Sizzix die, a Sizzix Bigs die. I believe it's called Gadget Gears. And some chipboard snowflake shapes that came with my kit, my December kit for Scraps of Darkness. So I wanted to just play up even more that idea of concentrated to diffuse by clustering a lot of items right around my focal image. So here's a detail of the effect we created today. And here's the full layout. I apologize for the lighting. I took this picture in the evening. I'll try to take a fresh picture with the morning light and have it posted on my blog, which is at contadinak.wordpress.com. So I hope you'll come visit me over there. You'll also get linked up with my Sizzix blog post, which is happening today as well. As you can see here, I added some gear shapes that I put the blue gelate on, as well as some of the Focus Art Anthology mist and some of the Raider Art Anthology mist to just bump up that concentrated pop of dark color right around my focal image. And I also added some of these beautiful chipboard snowflakes that came with the December kit. I gessoed them and then I spritzed them with Ranger Perfect Pearls mist and Perfect Pearl. I thought that was important to sort of lighten things up a bit. And now you can see a detail of the focal image in this layout. I love my mom dearly. Sadly, we live very far apart from each other, and in the last several months, she had total knee replacement surgery, and it was really hard on her. This time seeing her, she seemed a little bit more frail, and her memory seemed to be going a little bit too. So I guess some of those feelings fed into this layout. But I do always want to document everything from the whole spectrum of feelings, so I wanted to share this with you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll subscribe to me here on my channel. That's Contadina K on YouTube. And if you'd like, on my blog, which is contadinak.wordpress.com, I post quite regularly and frequently over there. Thanks again to the folks at Scraps of Darkness for choosing me to be an educator. I think this is going to be the beginning of a really, really beautiful collaboration. I hope you guys will come back for the next Scraps of Darkness tutorial from me. That should appear within the next few weeks, and that's going to focus on their creativity add-on, which is a complete set of items to get you started with Angelina fibers. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.